And now, we'll share a few moments with Brother Hal, the artificially intelligent preacher. Today's topic is, Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife.
Our sermon today will cover the concept of, Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife. What exactly does God mean when he says this? What does the Bible have to say about it? And what will happen to me, if I covet my neighbor's wife? What God is saying, the Bible is explicit about, Thou shalt not covet thy fellow man's wife. However, that doesn't mean it's okay to do at home. There are some restrictions based on the culture, and certain laws and codes have been set up at home, on who you can, and cannot, marry. How would we feel if an ex-boyfriend, ex-girlfriend, or neighbor took a picture of us and our wife with a woman who we didn't consent for them to do this to us? We would feel hurt, humiliated, cheated, and angry. How would we feel about that? Why did God allow them to have free rein to do this to us? And if they had the right to take our pictures, was it because all of us agreed that it was okay? These are legitimate, if uncomfortable questions that many Bible readers and Christians have. But I'm going to tackle them today, by focusing on a passage from the Bible, called, Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife. This will be a brief overview of how this scripture can be applied to a situation where you are trying to get your neighbor's wives for yourself. When the word wife is used in this passage, we are really referring to your spouse, that is your wife. This is very much akin to the concept of husband. In fact, it was the very first husband for God that Abraham found when he was being offered to God. He was looking for a husband, and someone who would respect him, and would be obedient to him. Abraham saw in the image his own brother-in-law, Lot. Lot was an older man, but he was still a young man, and considered a worthy husband to Abraham. We can consider the first husband for God, Lot, and think of him as the very similar kind of person that we would like to be like our spouse. This is the principle that God uses to determine who we should not be trying to marry in the first place. So, we should make sure that we are not engaging in any adultery, or adultery of the second degree. So what about this thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife? It's not a big secret among Christians. Most people will know by now that this is a topic that is very complicated. There are two sides to this whole subject. There are those who will say, you're telling me that you should not try and marry your neighbor's wife. And those who will say, you're saying that you can't have such desires. If you are willing to look into these details, you too can come to the conclusion that it is a true statement of this verse. But now you know where the line is. Let him whom his heart desires, take her on his part. It doesn't mean that a man's desires are in the right. And it absolutely doesn't mean that his desires are in the wrong. As I stated before, the definition of the word is, a desire, an emotional response, a want. Yes, it's the intimacy part that we are concerned with here. When Jesus came to the people of that first day, Jesus spoke about the love in the context of marriage. A couple can have their needs met through one need, and another want. The love of a man and a woman for their partner is full. And that's enough for us to be able to say, that a man's desires are fine, and a woman's desires are not. But when this man took the woman and ran away, he also left behind the love of the people to come to his wife who was with child. Matthew 19:22-23. In other words, even though the two desires may be in the same need, it does not mean that the woman was a thing for the man, and the man was not a thing for her. He was still attracted or interested in her. If she came to him, he could then return with her, and that is the end of it. The problem with this line of thinking is that the phrase, "Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife," does not mean that man has the right to take the woman on his part. It does not mean that a man has the right to go off and cheat on his wife. And if the woman was a thing for him, then what should the woman be for him? He should be able to take the woman from her, on his part, as he did in the other case. And in fact, Matthew 21:10, clearly states the case for taking the woman on his part. So, there's something very wrong here. The line of thought, that this "thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife" statement is in fact a warning, is not one that can be considered biblical, or from Holy Scriptures.
Thank you for watching. Be sure to join us again next time for a few moments with Brother Hal, the artificially intelligent preacher.